2, 1.
Good evening. Today is Monday, August 23rd. It is 6 p.m. I am Lynn Snee, and this is a meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee. Also on the committee to my right is Councilman Rozelle, and to my left is Councilman Twiss. We have two items tonight, and the first is to provide a recommendation to Council regarding establishing guidelines for a residential exterior housing improvement loan program. Mr. Titterington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have the report. Let me go through it a little bit. We are asking to establish an exterior housing improvement loan program using $150,000 of the American Relief Program, ARPA, whatever that's called. I have my pet name for it, but I won't say it for the record. And so what staff did was put together some guidelines that we'd like to use. The goal of this would be, number one, to be available to all owner-occupied single-family residential owners. We would like to use these funds and this program to supplement the CHIP program. In other words, if you fill out an application, first evaluation we do is, are you eligible for CHIP funds? If you're eligible for CHIP funds, the next question is there money available out of the CHIP program? Because they can go fairly rapidly. If the answers are yes, then we move you to the CHIP program, where the guidelines that are set by the county and the state are, it can be a forgivable loan, it's using CDBG money, there are a variety of different ways that you can use it, and criteria that are related there too. If you're eligible for CHIP funds, but there is no money, then as you see on the second page of the report, we would then evaluate you for eligibility under program option 1. So the CHIP income guidelines are 80% or less of the median income. And you do see the persons and family median income levels at 80% and less than 100%. The minimum loan is $5,000 for administrative purposes. Maximum loan would be $20,000 with a 0% interest rate and a repayment plan at 10 years. Would not be forgivable because this is the ARP money and this is a revolving loan, or the idea is to create a revolving loan program, and there would be no match required. If you do not meet the income guidelines of option 1, if your income limits are between 80 and 100% of the median income, you would fall into option 2. Again, your minimum loan is $5,000. Your maximum loan is $40,000. Your interest rate would be the current prime rate, 10-year non-forgivable loan. And the reason that it's a maximum loan of $40,000 rather than the $20,000 in option 1 is there'd be a 50% match requirement, which you do not have in option 1 or in the CHIP program. If you're, because this is a community-wide program and offered to everybody, if you are 100%, over 100% of the HUD income guidelines, you can get a loan of between $5,000 and $10,000. You're at prime rate. Your loan terms are 5 years, and again, you have a 50% match. The eligible activities, some of the guidelines I mentioned, that you must be a single-family owner-occupied residence. Eligible activities would include improvements to the exterior of the property, such as repair and replacement of roofs, gutters, downspouts, siding, windows, doors, porches, chimneys, foundations, ADA ramps, as well as garages. The primary leads for these loans would be through our property maintenance inspections that we do, which will be particularly important if in the future the council approves a a rental inspection and point of sale inspection program for exterior. We're focused only on the exterior of the property. The exterior of the property, again, is a property maintenance avenue. It's where we can control, and the improvements to the exterior not only improve the property itself, but also the neighborhood. Additionally, if we were to get into interior type work, such as plumbing, electrical, mechanical, then we have to hire outside inspectors that can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000, depending on the specialty and the number of inspections that have to be done, which of course takes away from the amount available to revolve. Some of the qualifications, of course, the house has to be included inside the city of Troy. We have found if we're not specific about that, we will get applications from elsewhere. Be at least 15 years old, and so that's when maybe more of the outside repairs start to be necessary. Owner occupied, again, you must have been in the dwelling unit for at least 2 years. You have to be current with property taxes, assessments, liens, bills, payments, and income taxes. In other words, don't have any delinquencies. You can receive loan assistance no more than once every 10 years unless there's an emergency condition. Mr. Davis is here, who will be administering the program. Tim, did I miss anything?
No, the only thing in the chart was persons for family, so pretty self-explanatory. The more individuals in your family, the higher income you have, so household income does count. We have several people in the CHIP program who were not able to qualify because maybe a child had a job, so they ultimately were penalized because one of their children brought additional income. So we wanted to make sure we covered those people as well.
Are there any questions from committee members? Mr. Rizzo?
I don't have any.
Okay. What happens if one of these loans is in default or someone doesn't pay?
We would pursue it like we would any other delinquency for collection, ultimately filing paperwork into court if we'd have to.
And you said this is, we want to operate it as a revolving loan program, so the money would come back into this program as it's paid.
So we would, at your next council meeting, as part of the reappropriation, one of the reappropriations will be to fund 245, which is a small business loan program. We will rename that fund and have a category for the residential side of it so that we can keep track of that program income separate from the small business revolving loan.
All right. Are there any questions from other council members? Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chitterington or Mr. Davis. The 2-year residency requirement, I'm concerned about. If somebody buys a home and it does need some serious upgrade, and if there may be a starter home in this situation, if there are no current applications and there's sufficient funds in there, could we make exceptions for that? That's question number one. Number two, let's answer that one because the other one just went out of my head.
So the reason we talked about putting a 2-year in, I guess for several reasons. One, we wanted to kind of prevent people from purchasing a home and maybe getting over their head and then coming in directly instead of getting a home mortgage for that, utilizing us. 2, we wanted to prioritize some of these applications, so it's kind of a first come, first serve. We thought about putting together a group of review and then prioritizing them. We decided ultimately against that. So we wanted to have internally be able to focus on these. And most of the homes that will have this, I think we want to make sure that the residents aren't using this as a flip or something of that nature, which is why we put the 2 years in.
Okay, thank you. Second one, if there's someone else with a question, please go ahead.
I have some. Oh,
Mr. Siebert?
So, Tim, while you're up at the dais, I have some questions. The difference between option 2 and option 3 is obviously the maximum loan amount, but what's the rationale behind a prime rate when, is that what we're doing? Like if you have the revolving loan fund that exists currently, is that at the prime rate?
So
That's lower than prime, right?
It's a little different because what we're doing with the small business development loan is we're actually gap financing. We're partnering with a bank. And so the bank is coming in and saying, this is a risky loan. And we're saying, we're willing to help you provide that loan. And in fact, we're going to give them money on our end that's even at a lower rate so they can help make the payments. This here is financing the project. We're not asking them to go to a bank and get turned down.
But the rationale here is we have basically money that was given us by the federal government that we wouldn't put back in use to the community. So what's the rationale behind a 3.5% rate that someone could go commercially and get versus having it at like 1 under prime or 2 under prime?
One of the reasons was we didn't want to compete with the banks. And that
Well,
was,
I understand. So you're going to be
So-
competing with the banks at
You're
prime,
really
right?
not. I should have said that we vetted this through Mr. Friggy. He's in agreement with this. He agreed with the prime rate because you don't get prime rate through the banks when you borrow money. You may get an introductory rate, but you don't get it for very long. And so this does represent a slightly lower rate than you would get commercially.
so it's usually prime plus is what you're getting when you go to the banks. We're giving you the
Or
prime.
some banks go prime under. I mean, it just depends on your credit worthiness. But I guess, so we're going to just continue to follow prime as it goes up throughout the time, right?
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah, we wanted to peg it to something in this program because when you look at the business revolving loan that we have, each project is completely unique from another one. It's a totally different animal. And so that's where sometimes we might recommend a lower or a higher rate, longer or shorter term, deferrals. This is, we just wanted to make
Well, I
a
do.
relatively easy to administer.
I get that, but I don't, I mean, I'll defer to Mr. Friggy, but your option 2 is never gonna be, I guess it depends on what you're gonna borrow, but if you're gonna borrow $40,000, you gotta come up with 20 under your theory, right? And you're gonna pay 3.25%. So that's not helping the people that, at least when we had our initial conversations, we wanted to help. We wanted to help the guy who needed gutters and could come in and fix that, or needed exterior siding and needed to come and do it. I mean, if you can pony up $20,000 down to put in your siding, any exterior company could probably get commercial financing for that. Wells Fargo has a little credit card, they'll give you financing for that. Look, I'm not gonna be an impediment, but I guess.
To that point though, Mr. Siebert, if somebody needs siding, they might not need 40,000, they need 8,000.
But why
So
do we
they're
need-
getting 4, they're matching it with 4. The 4 that they have to pay back, they have 10 years to pay it, not 5 years. So they can spread it out and lower their monthly repayment.
This isn't tied to a FICA, is it? I mean, I didn't see anything in here that said you had to have a specific credit rating,
No, it's
740
not.
and above or something like that.
Right.
So somebody who goes to the bank and has a 650 or a 600 credit score isn't gonna get a prime rate.
Yeah, but they're also not gonna have $20,000, they're also not gonna have a 50%. I can live with the prime rate, I'm not sure I like the option 2 50% match requirement. They're not gonna I mean, that's a lot of money to require somebody to come up to fix their exterior. I can see on your option 3 where you're, over 100% of HUD, but if you're making $54,000 with 3 kids and you've got to come up with $5,000 to pay half of your $10,000 siding project, I think that flies in the face of what we initially discussed having.
You said,
It would be
how many
six-
kids did you say?
Three
It'd be
kids
Three kids.
is
That's right, at
54.
80%.
That would put you in option.
54 to 68.
That puts you in option one,
68.
yeah.
That would.
Fif-
now the
54 to
would-
68.
54 would put you in option.
Okay, between 54 and 68. Okay, so you make $60,000 a year. You're gonna be in that category, in option two, and you're gonna be required to put that type of money back. I don't know, I mean, I just see this as money that we got it from the federal government that we could put back into use. I don't see the need for the 50% match requirement on option two, maybe 20%, maybe something a little bit more reasonable.
You want to
I have
split it
no
and go
problem with option three, where at the,
to keep it consistent, do you want to go to change that 50% in option two to 25%?
To do 25%.
Then you have a 0 in option one, 25 and 2, and 50 and 3.
I don't know you'd want a maximum loan of 40 though, would you?
well, that's still requiring $10,000 down.
Sure.
I mean, that's still a significant investment in that.
Can you explain
number.
though again why the maximum loan is $40,000 in option two?
Because they're gonna make you
Because
come up with
there's a
20.
50% match, meaning that the net out of our loan program is 20,000, not 40. The 40,000 is the total
Okay.
project, including your 50% match.
Right.
So it's
you're-
really not the amount of the loan, it's the amount of the project?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
So the most you're gonna get is 20.
20,
Yeah.
all right.
Right, which I think, I don't have a problem with 40, I don't know what exterior improvements cost, but I do have a problem that I think we're sort of I don't know that accomplishes what we wanted to accomplish, which is to make available money for people who need to make improvements that may not have the resources to do that. I mean, there's obviously painting, gutters, siding, I mean, there's a number of issues that we see on a monthly basis that need to be fixed.
We can go 25 if you're.
Was Mr., your conversation with Mr. Friggy, was his logic for to sign off on this, was that based on that he, one, we probably can't ask him if they've been turned down at the bank legally, and that he didn't want us using them using us as a bank prior to if they could possibly get financing outside?
That's not an absolute
They-
requirement
yeah.
in our loan application. You know, we're like the small business or the business loans, the revolving loans that we have now, we require the applicant to come back with a letter from the bank saying, you know, I'll only give them 80% of what they want, or, you know, I can't loan them any money, or, you know, give us some
Yeah.
valid reason. We did not include a requirement here. We wanted to be as relaxed as possible with that and make it available to everybody.
So if we did 40 with a 10% match, that would make our max
No,
loan, in-
we would recommend 25%.
I mean, 25, I'm sorry, 25, $10,000. So you did 40 with a $10,000 down, that would make your maximum loan under option two of 30.
Right, so if you change the
And you,
word maximum loan to maximum project.
Project.
That's really what it
Minimum
should.
project and maximum project.
Yeah.
well, your loan would still be
No,
40.
your minimum loan would still be 5,000, because that's what we're administering.
Right, and your maximum loan
And your maximum
would still be
project-
40, but your maximum project would be 40, you would need 10,000 down,
Right.
and we could loan 30.
Correct.
Sure.
To me, that makes a little more sense, but I'll defer to the committee.
Committee would
Well,
prefer to do that.
and I understand your point, Mr. Seaver, but I'm thinking that this option one, people who would otherwise qualify for CHIP funds, if we had CHIP funds, would be what we were primarily seeking to supplement, if that makes sense, is those homeowners, if we don't have CHIP funds,
Yeah,
but now we have these.
I don't
So-
think that at least when we first initiated this, a long time ago, I don't know there are CHIP funds, right? There's CHIP funds right now.
Yeah, but
I mean-
we've used our allocation.
They're spoken
We are looking
for.
at getting supplemental allocation from those who might not have used it from the
Right.
county, that we can use some.
Right, and that lady was here, and I think CHIP funds are readily available, so I think we're looking
They're not
to,
readily
Well,
to use your
I just thought I heard that we
Yeah.
allocated all
So-
ours, so.
I understand, but we can reallocate, we always use them, but we can reallocate.
We can only reallocate if not everybody, if there's extra funds in the county to be reallocated
Let me
to.
rephrase it.
Okay.
I think what we were looking at is the gap individual that doesn't qualify for CHIP. If there's no CHIP funds available, then they're gonna fall in here. But we're looking to fix the gap between, there was somebody in the neighbors column just the other day, his parents needed gutters. That's what you're looking at. I have income, I'm not gonna be CHIP eligible, like you said, there's somebody that's, my kid works at the Kentucky Fried Chicken, so I'm not eligible, but their gutters are falling down, they don't have the resources to do that, and this was designed, or at least discussed to be sort of a opportunity for the city to use these funds to make those improvements, keep it as a continual revolving fund, and then go forward. So I don't know proportionally whether there'll be more ones, more twos. I would imagine you're not gonna have a lot of threes, just because economically, those people are gonna be able to get some sort of financing through either the provider or.
And they may be less likely to be issued notices on property maintenance as well.
Right, because.
I do want to clarify something that was a little confusing before. You keep mentioning 3 under this chart with 3 kids. If you got 3 kids and 2 parents, you're actually looking at a 5-person family home, so 65 to 81.
Okay, I see how
It's
you're.
all persons in the household. Those are not just the kids in the household, it's all persons in the household. And all
Right,
households,
so
the whole household income, so.
Right, so two kids, 2 adults,
Okay.
between 60 and 75. Right? I mean, that's right there.
So family's really household versus persons and families, persons and household?
That's how they label it, so
Okay.
that's why we use that. All right, so,
So right now, we're
yeah.
talking about changing the 50% match required for option 2 to a 25% match and the maximum project to 30,000. No, you're not changing it from 40,000.
Just the percentage.
Just the percentage match.
I got
and just
quick
check,
question on
we'll
that.
change the maximum loan to maximum project on the left, down the left column.
Was the goal to try to keep it around 20,000 that we were loaning out because it made it easier to
Each time.
repay? Because it looked like it was sort of 20,000.
Maybe
on
not
level
easier to
one,
repay, but we were trying to put a cap on it so we could fund more
20,000,
individuals
20,000.
and make the
Spread it around more.
biggest impact as possible, yes.
So we feel comfortable that 30,000 would be fine, or do we feel 25,000?
No, it's still 40,000.
Or I meant,
No,
change the
30,000
40 to
borrow.
35 to borrow 25,000. We feel fine with 40,000 maximum project to loan 30,000 out. We feel fine loaning out $30,000 in this, or do we need to lower that a little bit, in your opinion?
And in my opinion, I would at least attempt to try it. Of course, we don't know what kind of applications we're going to get.
True.
We are going to go on the end of the property maintenance side and definitely have a tool for them to utilize if they come to us saying they can't afford to do X, Y, and Z, which is the whole point of the program, is to help those who need it.
Why don't we just drop it down to 20 and not have anything there? There's a lot of people there are people that will apply for this that are not really as bankable as what most people are. They don't have the credit score. It's gonna be enough for them just to pay back $20,000 or whatever it is they take out. I agree with you. I think we should look at, nothing down or no skin in the game other than the house and the mortgage.
You say you're suggesting maximum loan go to 20,000?
In option
On
2
option
two.
with no match?
Yeah.
But you're,
I don't know if
then
I can agree
option
with
1
that.
and option 2 become the same.
Right.
It's the same thing.
I think as your income levels go up, you have to recognize that there's a possibility of paying some of
Some sort
this.
of match.
So if we lower it to a 25% match required, I would be amazed if you had a $40,000 project that someone would do through this, but possibly. I mean, I don't quite understand why that's 40,000. I would lower that, but, you know.
I'm not opposed to lowering
Again,
that
that's
either.
total project, so.
Right, but it's a
So you,
It's
project.
30,000.
The cost of most projects, though, that's not a large project.
Yeah, I'll be honest
Well,
with
the
you,
kind
one of
of
the
things
reasons,
we're doing.
one of the reasons we did increase it is because of what we're finding with our CHIP program. We have to bid those out. We were proposing, I think, for homeowner repairs and then rehabs, and every one of our projects are coming in over budget simply because of the cost of goods, the cost of construction, all that has increased. So we did increase that number up because if they want to do a significant project, it's going to cost them more on the construction side. So that was our rationale for that.
Madam Chair.
We can always,
Yes,
we
Mr.
can
Phillips.
always revisit the guidelines.
Mr. Phillips.
What, you may have to pick this out of the air, but what is a potential number of homes or buildings that we're dealing with on an annual basis that may be eligible for this, that we're seeing or dealing with? Again, I understand it's scientific wild guess.
It's hard to do because we're not income verifying anybody for anything right now.
I understand that, but just the total, the properties, just as we're looking at properties.
We have probably turned down 50% of the people we had for the CHIP program because they didn't qualify.
And that
They
number-
just exceeded, which would put them into probably,
How many?
So how many,
Program
properties- how
option
many
two.
properties are
Yeah,
there?
how many
Is that-
properties?
we probably, right now probably, we have 8 applications we can fund, we probably had 16.
Okay, all right. So
But we're not promoting the CHIP program as much as we're doing kind of the same thing. We know you may be by yourself, you may be on limited income, would the CHIP work for you? So, but promoting this,
I'm trying to get at a potential number that we may be able to service. Is it 50 to 100?
Yeah.
I don't know, is that high, low? I don't know.
we would run out of funds before we hit 50 properties, yeah.
But the potential of people there that if money was there, that number is maybe achievable, if the money was there.
Well, if you're looking
10,
at the.
would it be 10 to
If you look at
15?
the bi-weekly property maintenance, the violation
Right.
report, I'd say probably, what, 90% of them are tall grass,
Yeah,
weeds,
that's not just,
garbage,
but when we're dealing with buildings,
cleanups, yeah.
that's, how many buildings in a year potentially would fall into the need of this type of program?
50
And again,
50 to 100 might be a universe,
gotcha, okay.
and that's not saying they're eligible, but
I
that's just the
understand,
kind
I
of
understand.
projects that we might have.
Just a number of
Yeah.
buildings, not,
And the primary way that we are promoting this is through the property maintenance.
Correct.
If there is a problem, then we will introduce you to this program and see if you qualify.
We take probably 10 to 20 individuals at a minimum to court each year, and we're assuming those are the individuals that were not able to afford the repairs.
Mr. Twist?
Yeah, I was gonna say, but based on the funds that are in there, that would limit the number of applications. So if 20 people came, depending on the projects, we might only be able to do 15
Correct,
in a
just
year
depends
based
what
on
they ask.
the,
And we-
it's not gonna limit the application.
it won't limit the applications,
Doesn't come from
but the
insurance.
number of
And
projects
we
accepted.
could keep them on file if they don't make it this round.
Right.
And, you
Okay.
know, if we get a repayment early and funds go back in.
We would be able to go,
You know, we talked about doing like a quarterly application, but that a cycle, that doesn't work because, you know, we're doing property
It may
maintenance
not be done.
daily. So we really have to treat this as a first come, first served.
Mhm.
Are we still focusing on the $150,000 seed?
Yes.
And there's a chance that could be higher depending on where things fall at the end of the day.
Yes, we would want to gauge the success of the program, whether or not any of the other proposed projects or initiatives for the ARP money, you know, come to fruition. You know, we want to just see how popular the program is, whether we get more money, if not everybody in the state or in the state uses their ARP funds, we may have additional money coming to us. There's a variety.
So really, the question we're at is moving the 50% to 25% And do we feel someone would have 10,000 at that level?
Verse 20.
10,000 or be able
Verse
to loan
20.
that much, or borrow that much, rather.
Or if they borrowed 20, then 5,000.
Correct, it would be less depending on that. So they might just have to have a smaller project, based on what they
Right.
get.
How is that administered? Who makes the decision on who gets it and who doesn't? Is that all through planning and zoning, or?
Correct.
Said it was
We
first come,
would have
first
our
served.
zoning inspectors go out just because they apply for it. They may not achieve it. If you have brown siding, there's nothing wrong with it, and you want to go to green siding, that's probably not a priority high enough to get you funded versus somebody else who really needs it. So we would make that call at the staff level.
And we do an initial inspection, and then there'll be a subsequent inspection afterwards to make sure the work was done?
That's correct.
Do we need to
We-
see?
we would
do
have-
Do we pay the contractors directly, or?
So we would pay the contractors directly. What we would do is have the homeowner sign off that they're content and happy with the work before we release the funds as well.
And it has to be an approved contractor, bonded?
It'd be very similar to the CHIP program guidelines. Mhm.
Yeah. Are we tying this at all into to the mortgage or to a second position on the home or anything?
Yes, we would be a second position. We would not want to go any lower than that because the risk value would be extremely high. Very similar to the CHIP program. If you have 2 mortgages on your property, you would qualify.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I was just gonna say, I'm in support of, we'll move it at 25%.
Ms. Rozelle? All right, with making that change to the 25% match on option 2, I believe we are all in favor of moving this forward to council for approval. All right, our second item is to provide a recommendation to council regarding the annexation petition filed for 12.524 acres from Concord Township, which is the Blackmoore Hill annexation located on Barnhart Road. There are 3 pieces of legislation to be considered with emergency. Mr. Chiddington?
Correct. This was filed today with us. It is a type 2 expedited procedure, so the timelines are very short. It is a 12.524 acre annexation known as the Blackmoore Hill annexation. We need 3 pieces of legislation, a statement of what municipal services will be provided, a statement that we would require buffering of any incompatible uses, and consenting to the annexation. Again, we are asking for emergency legislation to meet the timelines in the state law.
All right. Are there any questions from council members on this?
No.
Ms. Rozelle? No. Any other members of council have any questions? If not, should we move forward?
Move forward.
All right, then we are in a unanimous agreement to move forward with emergency.